Welcome to the Early Wedge Tuesday Best Bet Show. I am your host, Derek Cohen, otherwise known as EC. Always glad to be back. It is the week before the Masters. So much to talk about. And hey, we had a great week last week. Well, 3 of the 4 of us had a great week last week. Sia and Jason went 3 for 3 combined in matchups. Patrick 2 for 3 in finishing positions. Yours truly, let's not talk about that until later in the show. Then we'll talk about it. I can't believe that I lost a top Canadian bet after 3 straight with a top 10 guy in Mackenzie Hughes, but we'll get to that later on. All right, let's bring in the stars of the show. We have Mr. Golf everywhere. You can hear him, find him everywhere. It is Jason Sobel. You can find Mr. Golf Encyclopedia, as I like to call him, the great Patrick McDonald. Then we have, I think, one of the most cultured and smartest people I have ever met. Yes, you are, virtually.
Whoa.
It is Sia Nejad. You are. I mean, you could do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You're so genius. You give tips online how to make life better. I mean, I need to model my life like you see.
Oh, that is nice of you to say about some of the non-sports stuff I do. I'm actually holding another Twitter Spaces along those lines Thursday at 8:00. If anybody wants to jump into that, it's non-sports motivational content, everybody. And I'd love to have any of you as a guest there. Can I just say I didn't have the best week. I did hit that matchup that was referenced. I did lose both of my finishing position bets. And I didn't hit an outright. I feel like it's a bounce back week for me. So hopefully we can do that.
So, I want to ask you before we get into storylines, are players like Ludwig Oberg going overly hard to win this week? Or do you think there's a motivation difference between the Ben Griffins and the Ludwigs?
I think it depends where you are on Friday afternoon, Saturday morning. I think that look, Ludwig's only won twice on the PGA Tour. This is different than Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. That if he's won off the lead going into the weekend, it's like, hey, let's go win. It can't hurt. It doesn't hurt your Masters chances to win the week before. If you're 7 back and you make the cut on the number, it's like, all right, let's not hurt ourselves. Let's stay in shape. Let's not tire ourselves out. Let's get to Augusta in one piece. So I just think it depends on the circumstances.
Patrick, I guess we'll start with storylines right now, because speaking of Ludwig and your boy Tommy Fleetwood, who I'm sure we'll discuss later in the show, major players seeking major form. Do tell.
My boy, I got to add him to the close friends list on my Instagram. He's not getting those stories out of me. But EC, you'll like this one. I was talking to Justin Ray earlier today, and he gave
show off
a fun trend going into the Masters. I already forgot it, but I'm pretty sure it is 3 out of the 13 last Masters champions did not play the week before. Mm-hmm. The only 3 were DJ, November Masters. Does that really count? It does. Hideki in 21 and Jordan Spieth in 2015. And you got a lot of guys, a lot of good names at the top of this odds board with Ludwig, my boy Tommy Fleetwood, obviously, the aforementioned Jordan Spieth too, where they're kind of looking for a little bit of form ahead of Augusta. And history says, according to the trends, which never fail, you see, except the Players Championship a couple weeks ago, maybe they should be looking for form at home instead. And so I'm looking at all those big names. Cantlay is another one, since I do already have a bet on him, unfortunately, for the Masters, where I'm looking for something from these guys. I think a lot of them are very close, and they could potentially go over the edge this weekend.
I love trends. I mean, we've done a lot of shows together. You know that I love these meaningless trends that have been broken into Cognizant and TPC Sawgrass. But you know what? I like that 10 out of 13. Sobel, there's 100 and how many players in the field that are not qualified for next week?
It's moving back and forth. There were 118 yesterday, and then 4 guys Monday qualified. Then 2 or 3 guys withdrew. So it's somewhere in the 119, 120 number of guys trying to get that golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory next week. And we've seen it happen in 6 of the last 10 years, where a player won the week before Augusta National and got the trip to Augusta. They weren't already in the field, including Akshay Bhatia last week. If it's going to happen, I think it's one of the greatest stories in all of professional golf, especially when it's a guy that's pretty far off the radar and a guy that's never played in the Masters before. So we'll see if it takes place. Again, a better chance that it happens than it doesn't, just based on the pure volume in the numbers. But I always think it's such a feel-good story. Guy not only goes out and wins, and maybe wins for the first time in San Antonio, and it's like hey, in the press conference, I got to run. I got to catch a flight. We're going to Augusta. I got to go find a rental house in the morning, which is, again, I love that story.
Good problem to have. Yeah, it's a good problem to have, right? Sia, I'm going to let you kind of introduce this one just with the one caveat that we have a couple guys on this show who are some of the most influential golf social media personalities out there, including one Jason Sobel.
Yeah, Jason and Patrick, if you don't follow them already, you might want to turn your notifications on, especially this time of year as we head into major season, because you guys are talking to some of the people that are very not only influential, but just big names in golf. With that said, Jason Sobel, maybe Matt, who is helping us out on the ones and twos, can put up the tweet right now. Jason Sobel put out a tweet, and I'm just going to read it for the listening audience. He said, Victor Hovland, after winning in Tampa, said, I wasn't really sure if I was going to play or not until I got here Tuesday afternoon. And then the same tweet says, Min Woo Lee, after winning in Houston, I wasn't originally going to play this week, but my manager signed me up. Clearly, the key to picking winners is to find out who wasn't planning on being there in the first place. And one Ben Griffin quote tweets Jason Sobel and says, I'm not really sure if I'm going to play this week. And if you want to talk about meaningless trends, I'll give you a meaningless narrative. I love narratives. This gives me all the vibes for Ben Griffin. Now, do I have him on my outright card? Actually, no. Do I have him on my honorary? I might throw $5 or $10 on him. Yes, I think Ben Griffin is going to win just because of Jason Sobel's tweet and Ben Griffin's quote tweet.
Not going to lie, see, when I saw this on Monday morning, I then was writing my SportsLine $1 Million parlay article. It was like, I have to put Ben Griffin towards the top of that article because I saw Sobel's tweet. Sobel, any thoughts on that whole interaction there? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Look, first of all, we'll give a shout out to the hundreds of people who pointed out, oh yeah, Michael Kim didn't think he was in the Masters and now he got in. So we're going to bet Michael Kim next week. I get it. Good one, guys. Good one. You guys were all on the same page. Secondly, I'm pretty sure Ben's being tongue-in-cheek here. I would love Ben Griffin to get in. It was probably, 7-8 years ago that Ian Poulter had a very Ben Griffin-like situation. He thought he was in 2 weeks ahead of time. The math didn't line up. He was just outside the top 50, went out and beat Bo Hostler in a playoff in Houston the very next week, the week before Augusta, and got into the field. Ben Griffin, I mean, it's like fractional. I wish the folks in green jackets would just go, you know what? It's just a little math is off. You're in. Just go play. But they don't do those kind of things in Augusta. And so he's going to have to earn his way in. The only way to do it now is to go win this golf tournament. Would be pretty cool if he did it.
Let me ask you this, and I assume I have an answer to it, but if somebody wins the LIV tour this week, that they probably will not get the invite. What the people? Huh? Do they really?
No.
It's April Fool's. I don't know if you're serious or not. I'm just seeing if Adrian Moron's already in the field. If David Puig, Tom McKibben, David Puig win this week, the people at Augusta not giving him a phone call, inviting him in.
They will, but they'll say April Fool's at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
I don't know what to believe today. I can't even believe I'm doing this storyline, but we are entering the historical peak of Jordan Spieth's season. Let me explain why. So Jordan Spieth has won in San Antonio. He's won the Masters, and he's won the RBC Heritage. That's 3 straight weeks. This could be – look at that. If you're watching here on the YouTube, look at that chart. Great job – or that graphic. Great job by producer Matt. I mean, Jordan Spieth is money in the bank here in San Antonio. Do you trust the recent form? I mean, that's up to you. Will we talk about him later in the show? I haven't cheated that far ahead, I don't think, but I have a feeling his name will come up. What I will say is you cannot count him out. Oh, wait a second. I did see something here. When it comes to first-round leaders, I guess this will be the segue. So I like Jordan Spieth to have a good week. Jason Sobel, were you the one that had Min Woo Lee last week in the first round? Which one of you
had?
Did,
which makes sense because he was only trailing by 1 and then went on to lead after the third round and, of course, the final round. So, sure. Why not?
But you have Jordan Spieth among your FRLs this week.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, so I get it. So Jordan Spieth won't cash the first round leader ticket, but he'll win again. I know you like the trends. You keep mentioning trends. There's a good one for you.
I mean, I'm just saying there's something to it here. As much as, I don't play FRLs. You guys do. But you got to go with Sobel's picks here. All right. Hey, Sobel, why don't you talk about Spieth and then your other one?
Yeah, in fact, I've already locked in Spieth for a first-round leader play next week as well, trying to get ahead of all my Masters content. So I've written him up for next week too, where he's led 3 times in the last decade. But yeah, I like him this week. Look, I talk every single week on this show when it comes to first-round leader plays about volatility. Nobody on earth, let alone nobody on the PGA Tour, is as volatile in their golf game as Jordan Spieth is right now. The numbers are like pretty good, actually. If you look at the numbers across the board, strokes gained off the tee, approach, around the green, on the green, like everything's sort of in that 50th to 90th kind of range as far as his ranks on the PGA Tour. Nothing's great, nothing's terrible, but on a hole-by-hole basis, you don't know if he's going to make an eagle or a triple bogey, and it's been like that for a while now. I don't want to invest in him yet for 4 rounds. I'll see what happens this week and maybe a little bit next week. If not for an outright, maybe a finishing position play. But for a single round investment, I like investing in that volatility. And then my second guy, Sami Valimaki, riding a heater into this one. He improved by multiple strokes in each round last week in Houston, riding a little bit of a heater. He is also 4th on the PGA Tour in round 1 scoring average this season. So a lot of things coming together for the big Finn.
I love trends. We're going to talk about this over and over and over just because I can't help myself. KCAZ in the chat. This is a great one. How about this narrative? He says, the last time the Final Four was played in San Antonio, the San Antonio-born golfer won the Masters, made me a lot of money that year. I mean, are we going to play that? I don't know. You guys want to do what you want with that one. All right. Patrick, you only have 1 FRL. Where the heck did you come up with Henrik Norlander?
He's born and raised in San Antonio, actually. The Swede himself.
Is he
150 to 1. No, he's from Sweden. I'm going 150 to 1, though. His iron play has been absolutely dynamite for a long time. I think he's like 3rd in the last 6 months behind Tom Kim and Tommy Fleetwood. Fired a round of 600 there Friday in Houston, missed the cut, but bring that momentum over. He's going to gain about 4.5 strokes from tee to green on Thursday and probably lose 2 on the greens. But if he gains 2 or 3 instead, which is a bit of a long shot, why he's 150 to 1, I think we'll be talking business. So went with him, the native San Antonian.
The native San Antonio. Listen, it's April Fool's Day. I'm reading stuff on X. I don't know what to believe, what not to believe. What I always do believe is when Sia Nejad puts out first-round leader picks, because those are money. Let's start with a guy that, I'm going to play many times this week, Corey Connors.
We've got Henrik Tex Norlander from Hef Sterling. Yeah, Corey Connors I really like. I mean, what's not to like? We'll talk about him when we get to the outrights and some other stuff. But the finishing positions have been so good. His all-around game has been so good. And I think that's why I like him as an outright and as a first-round leader. I like this number 35 to 1. And I will say this. Somebody said no Bud Cauley love. I think Bud Cauley has a pretty early tee time, and I'm trying to gauge the weather. I usually get it wrong if I'm being totally honest, but I'm kind of shying away from the early morning guys because from what I saw, and it's nice we have the sort of the conditions for Thursday on this screen here, but I think the wind's going to be up a little bit in the morning, and it's going to be really kind of relaxed and calm down come like 10, 11 o'clock. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. But my first-round leader picks are actually, for the first time in a long time, are in the late morning and early afternoon. Starts with Corey Connors. I love Keegan Bradley this week as well. I mean, he just rates out so well, literally checks every box. We'll get into him later as well. Jake Knapp, I considered as just an overall outright because the way he's been hitting it on approach, I think that's something that people are overlooking with his game because they see him as an off the tee guy and can get hot with the putter. I actually kind of think he's bringing the complete game together, but I don't think I want to sprinkle on the outright, so I will on the first round leader. And then finally, Tom Hoge. I mean, listen, anytime you're looking at a spike in approach play, Tom Hoge's got to be one of the answers to the test. And at 75 to 1, I'm willing to speculate. He's not an outright for me. I don't think he can do it over 4 rounds, but over 1 round, he absolutely can.
Well, I mean, you never know. Minwoo Lee, we didn't think he could do it for 4 rounds. So he went out. And now that was a different course, obviously, with where putting was, heavily relied, upon. And he goes out and gains, 8-9 strokes putting. And there you go. All right, coming up next, we're going around the world. You'll see what I mean after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Guys, can you feel it? Legends were born here. History was made here. These are hallowed grounds.
Hallowed grounds? The NCIS squad room?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but I was talking about Augusta National.
All right, it's finally time for the Masters. I hear it's a tradition unlike any other.
And speaking of the Masters, this April, CBS Sports brings you more of the Masters than ever before. 14 hours of live coverage from Augusta National on Saturday and Sunday, beginning each day at noon Eastern on Paramount Plus, and continuing at 2 on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. Pretty awesome. Check out the Golf on CBS Instagram feed as well. They had the whole schedule of the coverage for the entire week, and it is awesome. I was poring over it for like 5 minutes saying, all right, this is what I have to not do next weekend. Blocking out everything and watching everything Masters. Hopefully winning some money that we'll talk about more next week. All right, Patrick, you don't have any matchups, but Jason, you do. Start with, I guess, Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, so essentially, this is what I talk about often when I get to matchups. I'm looking for players that I like against players that I really don't like, and I'm going to fade two players who are bigger names that just don't have it right now. And the first one is Matt Fitzpatrick. I like his game overall. I especially like him when we get to more difficult venues, but it isn't happening right now. I can't imagine that Fitzpatrick ever had any designs on even playing the Valero Texas Open a few months ago, but he's got to do something to go find his game whenever players are in situations like that. Like, it feels desperate. I am okay with fading them in every single market, and I don't mind Fowler, especially if the wind kicks up on the weekend. He's a guy that plays really well in windy conditions, and Ricky tends to play well when his back is up against the wall. He's outside the top 100, wasn't even talked about for getting into the Masters last week because he was so far back in the pack. But I do think that now that he's essentially, unless he wins, out of the Masters field, that Ricky might start playing some better golf pretty soon, and I like him in this matchup. And then I'll fade Sam Burns, same thing here. The ball striking's been okay, but it's just things are not good for Sam Burns right now. He's an easy fade for me until he proves otherwise. Tom Kim is a guy that I like in a few different markets this week. I know Kim hasn't been great either, but the performance has been better than the results have shown, and I'll get into that in a few minutes, but I certainly like Kim at this number over Sam Burns.
All right, fair enough. Now, Sia, I talked about it earlier in the show. You have taught me so many things about different continents and places around the world, and now you're not letting us down with the top African. Do tell.
Yeah, well, actually, I have two plays here. We're going to update the screen. You know, one thing people should know, this applies to this week and last week. For whatever reason, like the major sports books are super late on their tournament matchups and their round 1 3 balls and things of that nature. So part of the reason you're seeing a screen that just doesn't have a lot of picks is because there's not a lot to choose from. And it's going to come to a point where if this happens with any consistency, we'll just have to go to some of the other books. Like, I know, Jason, you already have, but like I might have to go to some of the other books and look at their matchups. I'm trying to kind of stick with the major players, of course, including BetMGM. But, you know, this is what we have right now. We'll have more later in the week on Early Edge, on our live chat tomorrow, and maybe throughout the pendency of the show. With all that said, I've got two top nationality plays because those have been available for about 24 hours. Top African, Eric Van Rooyen. This one is kind of an easy call for me from a price point standpoint. I gave this out on the Early Edge this morning at plus 160. It looks like it's dropping to plus 150, but it's basically a 3-ball because he's up against Aldrich Potgieter and he's up against Tristan Lawrence. Tristan Lawrence just hasn't been good. I don't think he's really going to factor in here. Aldrich Potgieter he's been solid. He's a very sexy, popular name. He's a monster off the tee, but I actually don't think his skill set is super great here. And the way Eric Van Rooyen has played here in the past, yes, he's missed some cuts. He's had some top finishes. I think the ball striking's actually been pretty good for EVR, a little underrated. I think he's a sneaky DFS play, but long story short, all three of these guys could miss the cut, but I do think EVR has the best chance with the best score. And at plus 160 or plus 150, I really do like it. Top German, that's the market I hit last week in my matchup. We're going to go with Matty Schmid. Matty Schmid goes up against Jeremy Paul, and I believe, who is it? It's Rosenmuller, I believe. And again, it feels like more of a 2-ball to me than anything. I do think it's Matty Schmid versus Jeremy Paul. Jeremy Paul's been great with the putter. Outside of that, he hasn't been really great. And Matty Schmid has really been coming on with the ball striking. So again, I'm getting another plus number. It's another 3-ball effectively. Plus 135 for the golfer that I think is really the far better option on this course. I'll take Matty Schmid as top German.
You know, I'm still bitter from last week that I had Mackenzie Hughes top Canadian at plus 340. He got a top 10 and still didn't win because Taylor Pendrith went T5. That was dirty. So we're going back to it. It is time for Corey Connors, top Canadian at -200, but we're going to do this with a catch. We're going to parlay it with the top Swede in Ludwig Åberg, and combined, you can get those at +140. You think I wasn't going to get creative here? So here's the beat. Corey Connors has to beat Adam Svensson and Ben Silverman, which he should do. And Ludwig has to beat Jesper Svensson, Henrik Norlander, which at Patrick we know
Texan, potentially.
Yeah, Texan, right? Yes.
Who knows?
Yeah.
He didn't even be on this list. And Tim Vieding, I believe. Isn't that how you pronounce his name, Patrick?
Well done.
Did I do okay there? Vieding. Proud of myself.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is how parlays are born. I'm not giving you one later in the show, but I'm giving you a +140 just because I can't cheat you here on the early wedge. We got to always give out a parlay.
Add Duke to that too, probably.
I thought I might get something. Yeah, there you go.
Just wait. I got one for you guys
Okay.
later on.
Look too
Just
soon.
this way.
Look too
When
soon.
it comes to the outrights, I got a banger for you. I'm just going to say that. All right,
You
go
see,
ahead. Sobel.
I thought I might have something funny here. I asked the Google machine what happens if you combine a Canadian and a Swede, and it said it could result in a person with dual citizenship, cultural blend, or a relationship with shared interests and values, depending on the context. I don't think they got our context in mind, so forget about all that in your combined parlay there with top Canadian, top Swede. I tried.
Hey, we're just trying to make money here. You combine whatever you want. There you go. We'll take it. But thank you for trying. I appreciate the effort. Let's move on to finishing positions. And Patrick, you're going back to the top 40 market again with a couple of names that I don't believe in all the shows that we've done yet this year in Best Bets that we have talked about either of these names. So start us off.
Yeah, top 40s have been good, kind of attacking it in lieu of matchups. The first is Matteo Monacero. I believe Jason dropped his name last week. The game's been pretty solid. The driver, it looks really bad on paper, but really more of a distance thing as opposed to an accuracy thing. So a little inaccurate off the tee as of late, but if he gets that back around, the rest of his game looks good enough for a top 40 at north of 2-1 at +210. And then look, you bet Charlie Hoffman 2 times a year. It's at TPC Scottsdale, and it's this week. And there's plenty of correlation between the two, actually. And Hoffman's iron play has been red hot. The rest of the game, a little checkered, but willing to take a chance on that at even money for a top 40.
All right, Patrick, trivia question for you. Charlie Hoffman's caddy, Andy Barnes, where did he go to college?
Arizona.
Jason, he did. That is correct. Do you know that, Sobel?
Yes, I know.
I mean, if you know that if I'm going to ask a question like that, usually the answer has to relate to Arizona. I just want to point that out. So Patrick got that. But yes, go Charlie Hoffman. I will always support him just for that reason. All right, speaking of top 40s, Jason, Ryan Fox, who last week gave us a little bit better than a top 40.
I love how he played. I love how he looked. I had to do a double take when I saw Ryan. Quite honestly, I hadn't seen him in a while. Last time I interviewed him, he had 40, 50 more pounds on him. He looks like a different person, and he's starting to play like a different player. He's a guy that when he came over to the PGA Tour a few years ago from the DP World Tour, where he's won a bunch of times, I'm like, all right, this is a world-class type player. This guy that's should be on the President's Cup team. This is a guy that should make a name for himself, get into the top 20, 30 in the world ranking. It hasn't happened, but the ball striking numbers have been great over the last month or so for Ryan Fox. I'm going to keep banging that drum on him, and I think he's a better player than he's shown over the last few years. I think that, whether losing this weight and looking like a different player is going to help him or not, certainly seems like it can't hurt right now. So top 40 is very cautious and conservative there, but I like that play at plus money. And then, look, if Tommy Fleetwood's going to rip your heart out as an outright play, you might as well rip your heart out as a top 10 play in his last 3 starts. He's been 11th. He's been 14th. He's been 16th. In fact, in the world ranking, you know what Tommy Fleetwood is right now? He's 11th. There's no reason to take him for a top 10. He's going to break your heart. So for that reason alone, I'm going to throw some money at him as a top 10, and it probably should be a top 20 right there, but I wanted to get really greedy on him this week.
I appreciate the greed. Yeah, the greed is always appreciated on this program. When you pick him to win, that's extreme greed. Have we learned? Unless the tournament is not played in the United States. All right, Sia, you're going to the top 30 market.
Yeah, I love this market personally. It just gives me the wiggle room beyond the top 20. It gives me the price I want, like relative to the top 40 market. With that said, I'm going to go with, by the way, all 8 of these people on the screen are from Texas. I think most people don't know that.
Correct.
Especially Mateo Meneseros has lived his entire life in Texas. Daniel Berger, top 30.
That includes our faces as well, right?
Mhm.
Yes, of course. Okay. All of us. Everything's Texas. Daniel Berger, top 30. Also from Texas or Florida. Texas. Jupiter, Texas it is. Daniel Berger is a guy that I'm not willing to put an outright on at the number that we're seeing. But everything is pretty much clicking for Daniel Berger, other than his ability to truly spike and put himself in a position to close. Really like Daniel Berger specifically in this market. Some of you, I haven't looked, might have Daniel Berger as an outright. I don't mind that play. I just question his ability to close. But I do think the top 30 market at minus 105 is one of the safer plays you can make, to the extent you can make safe plays in golf. Bud Cauley, top 30. I mean, I don't know what to say about this guy. We've been talking about, this show has been talking about him since we kind of like brought the show back, right, for the year. And I've been betting on him. And I think in the top 30 market at plus 125 for a guy that a lot of people, including myself, think can win this tournament, can certainly top 10, top 20, getting a plus number in the top 30 market. I mean, the metrics are speaking to me. The game is absolutely there. I love the story there if we're going to ride narratives. We talked about it a few weeks ago, Jason, the injury in 2018 and whether he was going to be able to play golf at a really high level again. Well, clearly he is. And I like this bet, top 30, plus 125.
Yeah, anything with plus money, Sia, for top 30 for a player that's playing as well as Bud Cauley. Now, Daniel Berger, I'm still bitter that he cost me. What was that? The Cognizant. Couldn't even top 20 there and cost me a big parlay, but it's another story. All right, Ben Griffin, top 20, plus 180. I mean, you read Sobel's tweets on Monday, you know there's nobody that's going to be pin hunting like Ben Griffin will be this week, especially on Thursday, Friday. So I'm rolling with him at plus 180. I mean, do I need to say more about that? When it comes to Chris Kirk, I do need to say more at plus 275 for a top 20. So he had lost strokes putting in 10 straight events before gaining 4 last week. How does that make sense? So he hasn't finished in the top 20 yet in 2025. I'd love to give you the he's due line, but I mean, T22 is his best finish. But he has 5 top 20s in 9 tournaments here, and he was 10th last year. So obviously this is a place that he likes. And I think he can show up and get us a top 20 at a very nice number of plus 275. Coming up next, is the do not bet list in danger of getting another line through it? We'll find out. First, let's hear from one of our sponsors. No, that's not. No, it's
one of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
All right, Matt, let's take a look at the do not bet list, which made it unscathed. It was a good thing I didn't put Minwoo Lee on there last week, or it didn't put him on there to begin with. I knew he was due to win at some point. So this week, I believe we have to sweat Fitzpatrick, Cantlay, Fowler, Tommy Ladd. I think those are the only ones that I saw. I don't know
in the field. Nothing.
Yeah, you don't have to sweat Cam Young. Yeah, we're good.
Well, you said Matt Fitzpatrick.
Well, I'd rather the guy. He's at least won something.
Not recently.
No, I mean, a couple of years. You know, he's won more recently than like Jordan Spieth or Justin Thomas, who are not on this list. Patrick, who's most in danger of upsetting me before next week's show?
I think you're gonna cross out a name this week, and I think you're gonna sweat potentially 2 names next week also.
Really?
But I'm going to say...
Do you want to spoil now? Do you want to spoil now, or do we wait?
I'd like to guess.
Yeah. I think Tommy Fleetwood's going to win this golf tournament this week.
No, it's not.
I do. And then I think next week, between Cantlay and Lowry, but I think Lowry is...
He's going to win the Masters.
He's going to contend. He's going to make you sweat. And he's going to make himself sweat. There's going to be a lot of sweating.
I will not be sweating. He may be sweating. I'm not going to be sweating. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Okay.
All right. I'm just going to say that. All right, Patrick, why don't you continue the theme? You're going down the board to give us a couple of winners this week.
Yeah. After saying Tommy Fleetwood's going to win. So that's kind of what I think of the top of the board. So Siwoo Kim at 40-1, taking a little trip down Narrative Street, needs that win to get into Augusta National, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, Siwoo Kim at Augusta is an electric factory. Tee to Green's been pretty solid for him. Obviously has a great history here too. The putter is always the big bugaboo with him, but putts these greens well, has a good comfort level around here. So took a chance. And then speaking of Twitter interactions, I tweeted a picture of Harry Hall last week in his Peaky Blinders fit Thursday morning in all the rain, just all black, looking like he's going to take a 9-iron to my kneecap. And he retweeted it. He
No way.
and retweeted it. So because of that, coming off a top 20 finish, we saw a short game guy like Denny McCarthy perform well a season ago. That's kind of Harry Hall-esque, and he had a great start to the year, kind of cooled off, but might be on that back upward trajectory after last week. Like him at 70-1 also. And then I guess honorary pick, Charlie Hoffman's like 90-1. And if you want to go down narrative street, I know Sobel will like this one. Hoffman wins this week. You know what you do on Thursday? You bet him first round leader at Augusta National.
Oh, yeah.
So,
by the way, Hoffman is so good at this tournament. There are shirts, there are t-shirts you can buy on the internet that say like Charlie Hoffman, Texas Open, and have his career earnings on there.
mm-hmm.
Really?
You've got to be really good at a golf tournament for a really long time to have t-shirts made like that.
Hey, I'm all for it. Let's get Charlie. Well, I mean, I didn't bet him pre-tournament, but okay, I'm fine if Charlie gets there. I respect it. All right, Jason, you're betting 3 guys here. I mean, Berger is real close to being added to the do not bet list. Tom Kim, your guys are. I mean, Tom Hoagie's at least won in the last few years. Berger, though, aren't you kind of sick of him like I am after what we saw at the Cognizant?
No, I keep hammering Berger. I've probably bet him more than I haven't this year. He's played 8 times. He's got 6 top 25s. It's coming, guys. I mean, I'm talking to players and caddies who are like, we're throwing out names for the Ryder Cup team. And when Berger's name gets thrown out, like everyone I've spoken with is like, yeah, no, he's on the team. Like he's really, really good and he's getting better and he will be on that team. Like it's not even like, well, yeah, maybe like everybody is saying that he's that good and he's playing that well. So I am fully aboard the Berger train right now. I know Sia said he couldn't get down with that number. I said on the Sunday early Wedge show that I was hoping to get him at 40-1.
Yeah.
Some places he opened at 40, some places 35, 33 right now. But no, I love Daniel Berger and I love him this week. If you look back at what he's done over his last 5 starts, he's gained strokes in the 4 major categories in 19 of 20 of them. If you put them all together, everything's green except I think he lost strokes off the tee just a little bit in his last start. That's really, really good, and it means a whole lot moving forward. And this is, I think, almost as predictive a tournament as we saw last week. Last week, essentially, it was if you hit it a really long way, you've got a chance to be on the leaderboard. If you don't hit it a long way, you don't have a chance to be on the leaderboard. From Minwoo Lee to Scheffler to Woodland to Toasty to Rory to Wyndham Clark, all those guys are big, big hitters. This week, it's just be a ball striker, be a great iron player. Any tournament where Corey Connors has won it twice, you know that you've got to be a good ball striker and a good iron player. Tom Kim, I get the results haven't been there, but the performance has not been terrible. The iron play should come around. I'm taking a little flyer on him, but I love Tom Hoagie. Tom Hoagie at that number, I did not think he would be that long in the outright market. I think that's a great number for a guy who isn't a great putter, but if that putter gets even lukewarm, watch out. You can go win this golf tournament.
I can't argue with that. One of the best approach players in the world, no question about that. Sia, you and I see eye to eye a few times. It's probably the only way I'm ever going to hit anything in OAD is when I agree with you. But Corey Connors, 2 PGA Tour wins, both here at TPC San Antonio.
And he's coming in with such good form. To be honest with you, I would be making this play even if he didn't have these 2 wins, or even if he didn't have 1 win at TPC San Antonio, just because let's just say the wins were like 5th place finishes or 8th place finishes. I just love the form coming in. I love the good course fit. And I hate betting Corey Connors at plus 1,600, but I'm also just trying to be disciplined. I'm trying to pick the guys that I think are actually going to win the tournament. For the record, I do like Daniel Berger, whether it's 33 or 40-1. I just question his ability to put it all together and close. But that's kind of ironic that I'm saying that because Keegan Bradley, I'm taking it a worse number. And honestly, when you look at his finishing positions, he does check every box from a metric standpoint. But when you look at his finishing positions, there's a lot to be desired, kind of like Daniel Berger, in my opinion. Like the metrics speak to me, but the finishing positions kind of don't. But I do think this is the type of tournament where they can both really shine. So I'm going to go out on a limb and take Keegan at a short number. And then finally, Bud Cauley. Again, the metrics are too good for me to ignore. I almost left him off the card, to be honest with you. But this was kind of one of those FOMO things. Like I was kind of mad at myself for not being on Minwoo Lee last week. And I'm not going to let that happen with a guy that I've been on, for most of this year, or at least the last couple of months. So I'll take Bud Cauley at 50-1.
Fair enough. I locked in Corey Connors at 51-1. Thank you, parlays. Haven't gotten Denny McCarthy in yet, but I do like this number at 30-1. Shooting that 28 on the back nine last year to run down Akshay Bhatia, who was long gone. So this was the best. Jason or Patrick may know this. The two of them tied for the best strokes gain in any PGA Tour tournament since at least 2015. I didn't go beyond that. Do you guys know who had on the PGA Tour a higher number than their 21 or 22 strokes gain? Because I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Go back to Brian Gay at Harbor Town like 12 years ago, 15 years ago.
There you go. Okay. I mean, it was. I went back 2015 and I didn't see anything there. So Denny McCarthy, then he ducked, hit it in the water on the playoff hole. That wasn't great. But this year, 8 for 8 and made cuts, and he had a T5 at the Genesis. Can he get his first PGA Tour win? Don't love the price. Now, if I get him at 100-1 in a parlay, I'm going to feel a lot better about it. Now, how about this price? Sam Stevens on the board, you see that at 55-1. But if you had been like me and you had parlayed it with the over 2.5 total sets in the Ethan Quinn, Jordan Thompson match and betting U of A's own Colton Smith minus 3.5 games against James Duckworth, you would have gotten Sam Stevens at 197.5-1.
You faded James Duckworth?
Duckworth, yeah. That's what I'm saying, Sia.
Wow.
197.5-1. Sam Stevens. He had a solo second at Torrey Pines earlier this year. He has gained off the tee in 8. No, not Duckworth. Sam Stevens. Gained off the tee in 8 of his last 9. Had an 18th place finish last week. Better than anything that I would have done in a OAD standpoint. And he was second here in 23 and 14th here in 24. So I'm going to take my chances with Sam Stevens with a longer shot than I usually give on this show at 197.5-1 or 55-1 if you bet him, just by himself. Go ahead, Patrick. Yeah.
Do you dabble in women's tennis? I'm going tomorrow.
Oh, you bet. Always.
Yeah.
It's great to bet on. Yeah.
Text me some plays you might have then.
Charleston, are you headed out there? You going out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It's right down the road from me.
So I will send you something later this week as the tournament goes along. You got to bet over 2.5 sets. You're getting plus money. You put that with your outright, turns your 25-1 or your 16-1 on Corey Connors into 40-1. I'm just telling you, that's how you roll it. That's how you roll it. All right. Let's move on to long shots. All right, let's go with it. Patrick, you're going. This is arguably the biggest long shot I have ever seen on this show.
No, we had Grillo. We had Grillo at 600-1.
Yeah.
Which kind of there was some life in there. It had a
pulse
moment.
Yes.
Got 22nd. Yeah.
But we'll kick it off with Sam Ryder. Who can forget him? He's in all those Ryder commercials still. But a quietly consistent season so far. Hasn't missed a cut. Had a T14 at the Players Championship, T16 at the Valspar, and finished T3 at this tournament only a couple years ago. So the iron play has been kind of mixed. It improved a little bit during the Florida swing. Not so great last week, but talk about a great putter also. So I really like his upside at 155-1. Sia was talking about maybe those black market books. That's where you can find that one. And then Brandt Snedeker at 450-1. I mean, this guy's history at the Valero Texas Open. He has not won, but he has done pretty much everything but win. T72 last year, not great. But before that, T18 and 22, T6 and 21. Come on, are you kidding me? And this guy has a top 10 finish on the PGA Tour this season. He is putting in, this isn't hyperbole, he's putting like peak Brandt Snedeker right now. Mm-hmm. And so at 450-1, the rest of his game, not so great, not peak Brandt Snedeker, but I'm going to ride that putter.
Patrick, we saw Sepp Straka shaved his head earlier this year. All of a sudden became one of the elite players in golf. Brandt Snedeker shaved his head. I can tell you guys,
yes.
Not having to worry about doing your hair in the morning. It's a big boon to your golf game. I love the Snedeker play.
Hell of a point.
Now, I will say this, that the rule, as I always say, if it's over 300-1, you will get taxed by the sports book, but you can't get taxed if you don't win. So if Brandt Snedeker wins and Patrick calls a 450-1, you deserve to get taxed a little bit. Not gonna lie on that one. All right, Jason, you're going with a couple other big ones, the guys we talked about earlier in the show.
Yeah, again, we're going to do long shots. We're going to do long shots. Let's go. Patrick talked about each one of these guys earlier in the show. As he mentioned, Henrik Norlander's ball striking stats have been terrific. They fall in line with exactly what we're looking for in San Antonio. He's a guy that I think has the talent to win. I've thought for a few years now, has the talent to win at this level. He's not going to go out and become a superstar, but can he get it all going together for 4 days at any given tournament that doesn't have too many stars in it? Yeah, this is the kind of tournament that he could certainly win. And then I've been waiting for Matteo Manassero to pop a little bit. He was really good on the DP World Tour over the last year and a half or so. There's a little bit of a learning curve getting over to the U.S. and playing here full time, but I like him on tight ball strikers, golf courses. The lack of driving distance shouldn't hurt him as much this week as it would have, say, last week. So at 350-1, I can evade some taxes, EC. I ain't worried about that. I'll just get a win.
I don't even know what to say about that, but we'll just move along to Sia's going with Max McGreevy. This is a pretty good number on McGreevy at 120-1.
When the books open up, usually it's like Sunday night or sometimes, Monday morning, at least at the books that I bet at, which are really, frankly, the conventional ones. I always make a couple of gut plays like down the board. It might just be a few bucks, like we sprinkle on long shots. These were the two I bet. I guess it would have been Sunday night. And I was able to get Ryo Hisetsune at 170-1, Max McGreevy at 120-1. Those numbers are still there at some of the books. Some of them have been cut down a little bit. But I just think, as far as McGreevy is concerned, the putter's been a problem. And frankly, he hasn't been quite as hot over the last couple of tournaments like he was 3, 4, 5 tournaments ago. But I've seen him lingering, at least on day 2, day 3, near the top of the leaderboard enough over the last 6 weeks to have some confidence here. And he did grade out pretty well when I looked at the weighted ball striking in particular. Ryo Hisetsune is accurate. The approach play is good. The putter can be good. So again, 170-1 to like this guy played last week and was pretty good. Like there are tournaments and there are good course fits for him. And I think this is one of those. So 170-1, I'm going to go ahead and take it.
I want you guys to be proud of me for a second. There is no parlay for me in this section. There's a 200-1, which you probably will not see from me on this. You got a parlay earlier, and you got some other parlay ideas earlier. Ben Martin, 200-1. Here's why I came up with Ben Martin. So there's only one player in the field who's been in the top 10 at TPC San Antonio the last 2 years. It is Ben Martin. Now, his game this year stinks. I mean, there's no other way to say it. His best finishes was a T45 in Mexico, and he has more missed cuts than, it's not good. Regardless, he plays well here. It's 200-1. What's a couple dollars? If he contends, we get a cheap thrill. So I'm here for it. All right, speaking of cheap thrills, one of Patrick's favorite things to pick or not pick is LIV Golf. And now LIV Golf is in Miami at the Blue Monster. And, we even got a pick this week from Sia Nejad.
Yes.
I mean, I was shocked to see this. So who are you going with?
Oh, it's limited research. Dean Burmester. Remember, he was like everybody's favorite, basically a year ago. He hasn't been bad lately, though, just from the quick look I took on Rick Run Good, over the last, handful of months, but also pretty good here last year, or at least in Miami. What was it at Doral that he won last year as well? So again, it seems like a good course fit. Obviously, he has the history here. I thought 22-1 was a pretty fun number. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but I thought in this field, any LIV field, 22-1 was a pretty good number.
Yeah, I think so too. And he won here in a playoff over Sergio Garcia last year. Now, in my LIV article that I put out on SportsLine, the one player I said to fade this week, not that he was going to do badly, but that he was not going to win, is Jon Rahm. Wow. If you remember, the last time that Patrick put his player to fade, he said Sergio Garcia would win on the show. I put Sergio Garcia as my fade. Sergio Garcia won. I just want to point that out. So, Jason, Jon Rahm, 7-1. Hit it.
Okay, first of all, Jon Rahm has played 4 LIV events because that's all they've played so far this year. He has not finished outside the top 6 in any of them. So I like him for that reason. Secondly, we've wasted a lot of breath over the last couple of months talking about Scotty Scheffler has not yet won on the PGA Tour. He's not played 6 events. He doesn't have a win in 6 events. He's got a second. He's got a third. He doesn't have a win. I think it's actually more remarkable that Jon Rahm doesn't have a win, only playing 12 other guys on LIV every other week, and being such a short number out there. So the fact that Rahm hasn't won yet, at some point he's going to ramp up his game for Augusta coming up this week. And I actually like him next week as well. And then EC, you like trends. I've got a trend for you. I've lost lots of money on Peter Uihlein on the PGA Tour. So the trend is let's keep that going. Let's lose money on him on the LIV Tour as well.
I'm all for it. Well, not really, but yes, he is. He burns a lot of cash. The thing about Rahm, he's won twice on LIV in 16 tournaments that he has finished. In every one of those tournaments, he has finished in the top 10. He just doesn't win as much. And at that number, I'm not betting him to win at 7-1. Now, this is also
EC, can I before you get into your picks, you said at that number. And usually when you have like an at that number play, you pair it, you parlay it. Can I just interrupt because I was just doing something when Jason was talking, and I was doing it because you wanted to fade Jon Rahm, and you just outlined what happened last time you faded Sergio Garcia. Obviously, Patrick hit that at 25-1. So you like Corey Connors, right? He's 16-1. You faded Jon Rahm in your article. Jason likes Jon Rahm. If you pair those together, my friend, you get 120-1. $10 pays $1,200. Now you like that number, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it.
Got to put that together. All right, that is, if you are watching or listening, you have to put together Sia's ticket. And if it hits, we will celebrate it next week here on the program. I'm going with Bryson here, 10-1. The best driver on LIV, one of the best drivers of the golf ball, and on a very long course at the Blue Monster at the Doral. He's gained more than 4 strokes off the tee in each LIV event this season, and he won the team championship here in 2023, last year at T7. Patrick Reed is an interesting case. So he won here in 2014 when it was the WGC Workday Championship on the PGA Tour. He was tied for 9th here last year, gained 3.8 on approach and 4.2 putting. And he was second to Carlos Ortiz in the International Series Macau 2 weeks ago. Now, I have absolutely no idea where Macau is. I assume that Sia probably does. I have no idea. Is it in the Pacific somewhere, I assume? No?
Does anybody know? Because I have a guess, but it might be wrong.
I feel like Far East somewhere.
I thought Macau was an island off Spain.
China.
Oh, we're all over the map.
I'll go like Indonesia area.
The correct answer is exactly what Patrick, you had to have cheated. There's no way you knew that.
No, I spent time in Hong Kong many moons ago.
Did you? Okay.
Oh.
All right. So he knows the International Series Macau. Is that how it's pronounced?
Around the riot time. It's not not correlated.
Okay, fair. So Patrick Reed and these two guys getting prepped for Augusta next week. So we'll throw those out there. All right, let's talk about what I don't really want to talk about one and done. This is a total and utter disaster. I'm embarrassing myself. But I mean, look at that. This is a true. Damn. The only one that I got right was the one that I shared with Sia on. So
how many people we got in this league?
A lot, almost 1,000, I think.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm really close to the bottom.
More than that, so given our standings.
See, I'm proud of you. Look at that. I mean, Rick's doing, Rick Sobel, McClure, you're. I mean, I'm embarrassing myself. It really good for Chance and Jared at the top with over 6.3 million. I will never catch you this season, so you have nothing to worry about. All right, let's see what we have this week. Patrick, we'll start with you. Oh gosh, really? You really had to do this for your one and done?
Well, I have a question for the group. It's something I like to do before every major championship. Is there anyone you would bet this week and also bet to win next week?
Jon Rahm.
No.
Okay. Are you going to parlay that? Right. No, like serious
parlay,
question.
I might parlay Rahm this week and Ludwig next week.
But not Rahm.
No.
I would do Bryson.
Okay.
Bryson would be the one that I would parlay. 10-1 this week, 20-something to 1 next week. That's what I would look at.
Okay, cool. Sia, anything or no?
I mean, I like Xander and Colin next week so far, so I don't think there'd be anybody that I would actually make that play.
Okay.
Patrick, you're not parlaying this next guy. You're not doing it.
I don't think I have anything this week. That's why I was wondering because you always got to scratch that itch somehow. But yes, like I alluded to, Tommy Fleetwood will be winning his first ever PGA Tour event this weekend. It's going to be glorious because right when he wins, everyone's just going to focus on the Masters. So kind of sad, but almost poetic, I think.
Tommy Fleetwood parlay. If you want to throw money down the toilet,
Tommy.
That is how to do it. Jason, Daniel Berger it is.
I don't doubt Fleetwood. By the way, somehow Fleetwood could win this week, and I still won't cash my top 10 ticket on him. I don't know how that works, but I just have that feeling that Tommy will never earn me a cent. I will go with Daniel Berger for one and done. I've talked all about him for a while now. My only problem with taking Daniel Berger is I kind of want to take him almost every week that he plays, so I got to pick out a good week, and hopefully he doesn't burn me this week.
Sia, you're killing it. You're 13th overall in our challenge here, and you're going with one of the chalks.
Yeah, so this is me like playing from ahead, going with Corey Connors. In the one that ECU, me and Patrick are doing in Rick's one, where we're definitely playing from behind, I feel like this would not be the game theory play. It would be more like, I'm kind of fond of Keegan. I almost went Keegan Bradley here. He's obviously one of my outrights. But again, playing from ahead, I'll just play the chalk play, hope to win it. And I was very fond of Keegan, though.
Damn.
I love what you're talking about there. I just want to get into it just for a quick second. We'll talk more about this as the season continues. But the fact that we're talking game theory for one and done plays is so smart. I filled out a bracket with a bunch of guys here down in Florida, and they're all Gators. So I had the Gators going out in the second round because it's a leverage play, because I know that all the other guys in this pool are going to have the Gators going all the way. You think in terms of leverage. And yes, when you get a lead in a one and done pool, or you get up near the lead, you're like, okay, let's be a little chalky and let's not toss it away and let everyone pass us. But when you're down there near the bottom, EC, you might want to take a guy that maybe nobody else has. I know you're not doing that this week, but there's definitely some game theory involved. Maybe it's still a little too early in the pool to start thinking in those terms, but certainly as we move on to the meat part of the schedule, meat part of the summer, we'll all be thinking about that.
Yeah. Sobel, I'm just trying to get a guy I'm just trying to have one make the cut here. That's all I want.
See, I'm a little concerned you're employing four corners a bit too soon. Offense is going to lose the flow, and we'll come charge it back.
This feels like taking Corey Connors. You're right, Corey Connors. It feels like a bye week. I do feel like I'm wasting a possession to some degree. I'm just pretty confident in the top two outrights I picked, so I just may as well go with one of them. But I hear you on that.
It's a good pick. Honestly.
All right, so two guys we haven't talked about before we get into the recap. Ludwig Oberg, we haven't really talked about him a ton, and Hideki Matsuyama, as David Talk brought up in the chat. Patrick, any thoughts on either of those two?
Ludwig's iron play wasn't great during the Florida swing, which was interesting, I think surprising, especially after he won at Torrey Pines. And then Hideki, after he went through a bit of a spell with the driver, testing a bunch, it seems like he got a good one in the bag as of late, but also another surprising miscut there at the Players' Championship. But that's typically when Hideki comes out and wins, when you least expect him to. So can never underestimate him, I feel like.
Fair enough. Now it is time for my favorite part of the show. It is story time as we put up the recap screen. Sobel, San Antonio, I'm sure you've been out there many times. What do you got for us?
I got nothing. This is a bye week for me. This is a week where I've got member guests coming up this week. I got my guests flying into town. I've got the big Sobel game at the club on Thursday. Don't ask, practice round game. I decided to run it years ago, and I've got guys texting me even right now as we're doing the show. Then member guest all weekend, Sunday morning, wake up, get in the car, drive to Aiken, South Carolina, not Augusta. So we got to get an afternoon round at Palmetto to kick off the week. And then Monday morning, boots on the ground in Augusta. So that's my story. It's not a great story. It's not good story time, but that is the story for the week.
I will say this. You guys who cover golf on site, I think it is the coolest thing to be there at Augusta. You know, somebody like me who's never been is incredibly jealous. Patrick, are you going down there next week?
I am. First time. I'm going early Tuesday morning.
And how far a drive from South Carolina is that for you?
Like 3.
That's not
bad at all.
I don't know if you're like, I mean, it gets the perks of living on the East Coast. I'm so jealous. It's gonna be 100 degrees here next week, and you guys are gonna be at the Masters when we're doing the show. I mean, it's not fair.
All I want is some inside info. You guys got to spill some range report stuff to us so we can give it out to the masses. It's my only request.
David asked Sobel your score in the at Palmetto over under 70.
I think that's the speed limit driving to Augusta. I'll take the over on both.
Fair enough. All right. Well, hey, it's been a heck of a show. Great Great stuff. Next week is the big one, the one that we will go in depth and try to make a lot of money. Sia, by the way, I do like your pick of Morikawa. That would be my top choice as of today for the Masters. So nice. You and I, it's good when I'm aligned with you because otherwise my guys are going to miss the cut. We know how that goes. So thanks to producer Matt behind the scenes. He does a great job. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube channel. For Patrick McDonald, Jason Sobel, and Sia Nejad, I am Eric Cohen. As I always like to say, let's hit it big. Good luck.